Okay, we're recording. I'll edit it out. I'll get in here. Make sure we're focused good. Framed good, I guess I should say. Are we framed good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shut. That should not have been recording.
You can edit.
Okay, there it is. Okay.
Hi, Duncan and I have decided to make a recording for our family in Pennsylvania. I'm not much of a talker, so I'm going to let Duncan do most of it, but I did want to say hello to everyone, and I wanted to let you know that we are in the process of sending some photos to Marlene, and she can share those with anyone that would like to see them. And we have also given her a link to our life review. And if anyone would like to see that, they're more than welcome to watch it. But we wanted to just say hi. We don't see you very often, and we had a few things we wanted to share with you.
Oh, you're putting over on me. Yes, this is a general introduction, overview, and communication to you. There will be a second part that Barb is going to step off, and it's going to just be me. And it's going to be some memories of Dad and aunts and uncles, all the aunts and uncles that communicated some things in the past, and I'm going to give them to you. Now, I don't expect a lot of the family members, the second generation family members, to appreciate it, because that's just the way it is. You don't know people, doesn't have any meaning. But I'm going to give them, and if anybody likes them, there they are. Barbara.
I'm letting Duncan have it. I mean, this is his from now on, because I have said what I wanted to say, but I did want to say that when we met quite a few years ago in Pennsylvania, I really enjoyed the time that we had together, and I wish that we were closer and we could do that more often. But take care, and I hope...
No, that's not good enough. What do you remember? Who you remember talking to? And what'd you say? Can you not remember that? Oh yeah, I'm putting you on the spot.
I've talked to everybody.
Okay,
but I'm not that much of a talker.
No, what do you remember?
I remember the time that we were at Barb and Mike's, and how enjoyable that time was when we were at their house, and Barb was making sauerkraut. I'd never seen anyone do that before.
Good.
And that was interesting. And I just remember meeting everyone, and how nice it was to finally put faces to names.
Okay, what was the old farm like? What do you remember? We were out there. Mike and Barb had that modular trailer down from Grandma and Grandpa. They lived out there with them. You remember the barn, or the farm, or what do you remember?
I remember seeing a barn. I remember they took us for a little drive and took us to a covered bridge. I remember that.
Really?
And I don't know, it was kind of a whirlwind because we weren't there that long.
You remember when we went by the elementary school that Uncle Mike was a janitor in?
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, those are the things to try to bring up, Did Uncle Barb, did Aunt Barb say anything to you that you really remember? Maybe something dealing with religion, or cooking, or or the family or anything.
No, we talked from time to time on the phone, and we would talk a little bit about family.
Good.
But that's really
What'd you
not
talk
a-
about time to time on the family on the phone?
Mainly
Do you remember?
mainly she wanted to know about your mom more
Oh,
than
really?
anything. Yeah, more than anything, that's what she talked about.
That's interesting. What did she want to
She wanted to
know
know how
about
your
Mom?
she wanted to know how your mom was doing.
Oh, okay.
And that was
Not
really,
the past, but just,
No, nothing in the
hey, is
past.
she feeling good? Is she feeling bad?
Exactly. That was about it.
Okay, that's fair. Did she ever ask about Dad?
No.
Nobody ever asked about fucking Harry Adams.
Why don't you go ahead with your
No.
introductions? Because I have.
No. Keep going.
Gosh. I had a few words I wanted to say, and that was
Okay.
all I wanted to say. I don't have anything else that I want to say. I was glad I got to meet everyone, and I enjoyed the time we spent at Barb and Mike's, and I just wanted to say that. That's it.
Then that's it. Okay. I'm going to break to part 2. I'm going to have a bunch of, I'm going to have some stories about aunts and uncles and dad and grandpa and all that. And it'll be all on my hook. And, we're going to break here and going to shut it off and refocus everything. And I'll come back online with some more stories.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Hello. This is part 2 of our communication with the May family back in Pennsylvania. Now, this will be a little more ad lib, and there'll be some stories that are from my best memory, from Dad talking and listening to aunts and uncles and so forth. Now, do I think a bunch of people back in Pennsylvania are going to listen to this? No. There may be my cousins and second cousins might, because they will remember the family members there. Okay. Because it's a product of human nature. If you don't remember somebody, you don't have a connection. But with that going on, as I said, this is going to be a lot of ad lib. I'm going to be going from notes. I'm just going to talk to you like you were down here on the farm in Brown County, over the fence row. Just trying to have a casual conversation. And it's not going to be in a real structured format. So forgive me for all the ad lib and the oohs and the ahs and I can't remembers and all that kind of thing. Okay. Going from my notes. Memories I had from Mom and Dad and the May family. My name is Duncan Adams. My mother was Dolores May from the May family in old Pennsylvania and, Pennsylvania Dutch area. Dad's name was Harry Joe or Joseph Adams, and they married right after World War II. I won't get into that. Talk about how we interacted and the things we did and things that happened for us to be in contact with the family back in Pennsylvania. It's 600 miles from down here in southern Brown County, southern Indiana, to back to Duncan, in essence, in Pennsylvania. It's a 12-hour trip. Mom and Dad would make it about once, maybe twice a year, and they drug me along. Sometimes I wanted to go and sometimes I didn't. But I have some fond memories of being back there on Grandma and Grandpa's farm and the chicken coops and out in the country and that type of thing. I kind of related to it or kind of accepted it because I grew up here in a rural area on a farm in Brown County. Okay. Okay, just looking over my notes, trying to keep some continuity going. Like I said, one of the things I remember going back on to my grandparents' farm, they had that big old block building where they had the chicken coop, and they raised and sold eggs, from what I remember. I don't have much memory of that, but I remember the chickens run around on the farm. I think some of them would try to flog me. And those are some of the memories I had with going up there. Okay. I think I touched on this in part 1, but I want to go over it again. I wasn't a good relative or a good cousin. And some of my cousins had, they weren't as blessed as I was. And I didn't know that. And they didn't draw a good hand at the poker table. And their mother had some problems. And that overshadowed into them. And I didn't realize that. And I was not as kind to them as I should have been. And I know they're dead. And I hope they'll give me some latitude and forgiveness in the next life, because I realize now I just didn't realize what the pain was. And I still don't know what the pain was that they went through. But I wanted to say that. A little bit of humility, if you will. Okay. Now, with that please said, on with my memories. Grandparents. And these are sporadic and minor, and I was young. I was in my teens. We just went back there for a week or so, and just fragments that stick in my mind. But one thing that stuck in my mind, or one of the few things that stuck in my mind, all of us went into town. Mom, Dad, my grandparents, and myself went into town, and we went to some grocery store, 5 and dime store type thing. I think it was a grocery. And Grandma wanted to buy me some kind of toy. I think it was like Army Men or something like that. Whatever I wanted. And it was probably a 50-cent toy back there in the, in the late 60s, early 70s. And Mom got upset about that. You don't need to spend that and the thing. Well, that's the way the hell they were. You don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. My bastard child doesn't need any of that. And there was a certain amount of argument there because they gave me a lot. But she wanted to give it. She wanted to feel good. She wanted to have some connection with her grandson. And I got it. And I wish I could remember exactly what it was. But I do remember she just kind of told Mom to shut up. And I ended up with it. And that's something that just stuck in my memory. A little 10, 20-cent toy from 1960 that I still have a remembrance of. Okay. On. Again, in no particular order, let me get my notes. Let me get my notes going here. Try not to kill too much of dead air. Where are we at? Okay. Whenever we come back to Pennsylvania, most of the family had come in. All of Mom's sisters, her brother, you know, the aunts and uncles and cousins, and they kind of drift in and out over the week and, you know, have a meal through the day or sit around. The things I remember, we'd sit around at night, and they'd sit around in the, on that bar up there in the kitchen, you know, and everybody'd have a beer, and they'd be drinking and laughing, poking fun at each other, poking fun at each other's misery if they were kids, and all that kind of stuff. Let me see what kind of memories I can drudge up here. Now, and I don't know why, and I had to look it up. The beer they wanted back in the 70s, and I think it was a beer that was popular on the East Coast, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, wherever, was Schaefer. And I don't know why I remember that. They just loved that goddamn Schaefer beer. Some kind of Pilsner beer. And everyone would have a couple, 3 beers. Even Mom. Mom didn't drink much. She'd go back to Pennsylvania and she'd have a beer or two. And it's funny, because all the years we spent down here in Brown County and the farm and this, that, and the other, until she got on the whiskey, that's another story. But she didn't drink much beer. In the later years, she got on the whiskey there for a year or so and then got off of it. She always said it tasted so good straight. But that's another story that I won't get into, because I'm trying to focus this to the times we had back in Pennsylvania. Okay. Everybody had a couple, leave them on. Oh, and I was allowed to have a couple. You know, I'm 13, 14 years old, and oh boy, this is a big thing. I get to have a beer. And I remember Uncle Mike kind of looking at me, laughing. Dad laughed a little at Grandpa, because they could see I get a little bit tight. You know, you're a 13-year-old kid. 1 or 2 beers, they can get you kind of tight. And it was fun. It was a rite of passage, if you will. And I remember that. And I think it was really neat. Okay. Now, I'm going to get into my uncles and then my aunts. And there's not going to be a whole bunch of stories because I don't remember a whole lot. I'm just going to give you what I remember, my impressions, and my suppositions on some of them. Okay. Let's deal with Uncle Charles. He worked for the Department of Defense. I think that's what he worked for. Maybe he worked for the Department of, you know, maybe he worked for the Air Force, the Army. It was DOD. He worked for him. And he always had this persona. He wore the sunglasses. I was going to bring some sunglasses out and do it for a prop, and I forgot it. He wore these damn FBI style sunglasses morning, noon, and night. Could be bright sunlight, or we'd sit in the darkness or in the fluorescent light of Grandma and Grandpa's living room or kitchen. He always had these sunglasses on. Didn't matter. And in his home he'd have them on with some kind of persona. I don't think his eyes were that sensitive. But it was always funny because he tried to give the modern day Men in Black image. And I always remembered that. I thought it was kind of funny. Well, you know, what did he, you know, I don't know that much about him, like I don't know that much about a lot of, you know, that much about my uncle and aunts, but I remember Dad talking, you know, Charles, he liked to get me drunk, and Uncle Charles liked his whiskey, what I remember. He thought, Harry, you want a drink? Dad, Harry Adams. Harry, you want a drink? You want a drink? You want a... And Dad'd have a few. And I'd see him get red-faced. And Uncle Charles had kind of liked to prove he could drink more whiskey than Dad. I don't know why. They liked each other. They respected each other. But Uncle Charles liked that. Well, I never figured out why. But he was pretty cool. He wasn't overbearing. He was nice. Treated me good. And always opened the home up to us and come on in, Harry, and all this kind of thing. And if I remember, they played a little poker, or maybe everybody played poker over at Grandma and Grandpa's. Poker or pinochle or something. I remember some card games, but not specifically. Oh, and from what I remember, oh God, I hope I get my aunts right here. Who was married to Uncle Charles? It was Aunt Liz. Is that right, Barbara? Because my wife's off the side here. Yeah, she's cringing her face. Aunt Elma, his wife.
Elma.
Huh?
Elma was her
Yeah,
wife.
because Liz was married to Paul.
Liz and Paul.
Oh, that's
Elma and
terrible.
Charles.
I'm sorry to everybody. But from what Mom and Dad said, she never knew what he fucking made. She never saw his paycheck. It just all got deposited, and the typical 1950s, 1960s house. I bring in the money. We take care of the house and went on. And they had a good life. And I think he had a good pension. I have no idea what, but I know he got a pension. Because after Mom and Dad died, I think we went in after Mom and Dad died and saw him one time. Yeah. And I got to talk to Uncle Charles. And I think they were comfortable from what I remember. But anyway, that was the way he was. He never told anybody what he did. He got shifted up to Alaska there for a while. And as a side note, my cousin said it was a fantastic place to live. I don't see it. I've got a friend who lives up there and he loves it. All the outdoor rec and camping and hunting and all that and fishing. I wouldn't have a day's worth of it. But my cousin said it was just fantastic living up there. And I remember Uncle Charles showing the 8mm home videos to us when we came out. It was interesting. It was neat. I hope they're still around. I hope the family still has them. But anyway, he was real mysterious. I think it was more for fun than anything else. Did he get to see the UFOs out of Area 51? I doubt it. But you never know what the hell he saw, because he wouldn't tell anybody. Okay, so much for Uncle Charles. Uncle Paul. Dad always liked Uncle Paul, because Dad was a plumber steam fitter and used his hands and understood that kind of stuff. He said Uncle Paul was just a fantastic mechanic. He could listen to a car. That's wrong. This is wrong. I'll fix that. And Dad said he could just listen to it and turn a wrench on it, tune it right up. He always liked that. I forget what Uncle Paul's history was. I think he worked in some private shops. Maybe he worked for a large corporation on diesel engines or something. I don't remember that. I'm presupposing that. I don't know that. Okay. So, but, excuse me. I got a slide off camera here. And that's my best memory of Uncle Paul. He was kind of cool. Oh! Uncle Paul. I remember this. That old man, he loved to smoke his Pall Mall non-filters right up to the point they burn his lips. He choked those non-filter cigarettes down by the dozens. I'd watch him just chain smoke them damn things. Hilarious. Just hilarious to watch him choke them goddamn things down. I don't know why that came to me all at once. I didn't have it. I did not have that on my notes. It just came to me all at once. But Dad liked him. They got along. Or as far as I know, they got along. And we'd go over and visit. And I can't remember if they'd talk about the events of the day or not. Okay. Now, Uncle Mike, the baby of the family. I got a few more stories about him. Maybe the family will know these, maybe they won't. I don't know. These are the best recollection of listening to Uncle Mike and Dad talk up at the dining room, or Dad tell me after the fact. And here again, it's best memory from 50 years ago. But I think they're probably relatively accurate. Okay, let's see. Uncle Mike, always cheerful, always laughing. You know, he just, you know, he didn't draw a good hand in life either. But he really strived over that. You know, he was the youngest in the family. Last one to die, and then Aunt Barb went after him. But, you know, okay. Things I remember. He and Aunt Barb would come out to the house a couple of times, I don't know how many times, 2, 3, 4 times, make a trip out here to Indiana, stayed. Mom enjoyed it, Dad enjoyed it, we'd sit around. I don't have a lot of memories off of that. Probably in about 70, 71, 72, before I got driving and running around and doing shit. But I remember being here. And everybody just sit around, you know, they come out through the summer, hot summer day, sit around on the back carport and talk and that kind of thing. I don't remember any card games or drinking. Not to say they didn't have a couple of beers, I just don't remember those things. I remember, I think it's my direct memory and not Dad's recanting of Uncle Mike talking about some of his time in the military. I thought that was interesting. He talked about a couple of things that happened. One of them, well, let's back up. This is the late 60s. He got drafted during Vietnam War. He got lucky. He didn't get shipped to Vietnam. He got pushed over into Germany, you know, and was over there with that. And the family, I kind of sort of remember the family kind of breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, he's in Germany. How'd that happen? Because almost everybody went to Nam. But he didn't. But he went to Germany, did his stint, did his tour. And he had a couple of stories from there that stick in my memory. Let's see if I can go through the notes here. He was stationed in Germany. One time in Germany, I don't know where, I'm assuming it was in Germany, he and his squad or company were put out on a training mission. And they were in some type of marsh or swamp. And I think the water was up around their ankles or their knees. And of course everybody's out there with a rifle, formation, marching, doing what the hell they're told. And out of nowhere there was a lightning bolt hit that marsh. And it energized most of the guys. They got juiced off of that. Uncle Mike said that it seized him up and he threw his rifle up about 10 or 15 foot in the air. Just a convulsion. And it comes down and well, he's not hurt. And to my memory, there may have been somebody that passed out or whatever and they drug him up. But I think most of the squad was okay. Other than being hit with a lightning bolt in a swamp. But, you know, they could function for all practical purposes. And he talked about being out there. And, well, you got to find your rifle. And they're out there in up to their shoulders in water, elbows in water, fishing around, trying to find this goddamn rifle and waiting for the next lightning bolt. And he talked about that. And the men found their weapons and their gear and everything, and they got them the hell out. But he talked about that. I guess that was not a fun day to be out on maneuvers in Germany. But he talked about that. He said it really hit him. Okay, looking at my notes here. Let's go on to the next page. There's another story Mike had, Uncle Mike had. Oh. Uncle Mike talked about when he was in Germany, they were out in some training mission again, or some mission to deliver goods or ammunition or whatever from point A to point B. Now, if you remember back during those times, Germany was split in two. There was East and West. You know, East was free Germany, America, NATO. Oh, I'm sorry. The West was free Germany, NATO, America. And the East was Soviet. They went over the property line into Soviet territory. And all at once they realized it, like, oh shit, we're not supposed to be here. Now, I don't know quite. I think they were out on old fire trails or county roads or whatever. They got twisted around. You know, there weren't barricades on all those with the Russian troops yet. No, that didn't happen. There were just old county roads out there, if you will. And they figured out they were in, you know, Soviet territory, and they got scared. Yeah, they're in uniform and this, that, and the other, but they're where they're not supposed to be. So they could be looked at as spies or invading troops or whatever, and end up, they just line them up along the road and shoot them. Hell, that's nothing unheard of. Or put them in prison for 20, 30 years. And Uncle Mike said they were pretty damn scared about it, and they should have been. But whoever, the commander, the lead truck driver, whatever, he said they wandered around for a while. They finally got their headings with the maps or the compasses or whatever, and they figured out, and they got back over into West Germany. And needless to say, they were real goddamn happy, because they were worried they were going to get caught over there. If they got caught over there, it'd been bad news. Probably never hear of them again, the way things were back then. But those are the two stories that stick in my mind. The lightning strike out in the marsh, and then being lost over there in East Germany. Now, I don't know if Uncle Mike talked about that or not. You know, and my kind of thought is Dad was World War II vet, so maybe he could relate to it more. But I do remember them talking about it, or Dad telling me about it after the fact. Okay, couple of neat stories about my uncle for whatever it's worth. Now, let's go on to my aunts. This will be kind of a generic thing. There was Mom, Liz, and Alma. And they all had pretty much the same sense of humor. They laughed at their misery and laughed at their successes. And there was a lot of misery back in the Depression era. They were always cheerful. Amazing, because some people that went through the Depression and World War II just never really, they always had that negativity, but they didn't. They were always cheerful and laughed. You remember this, and we did this, and we didn't have that, and how we had to sleep together in one bed under 2 or 3 quilts, and the snow blowed in through the window, and all these things. And they just laugh about it. They really, collectively had a good attitude about the strife and hardship they went through. Let me see here. Gather my thoughts. Yeah, they had a good time. They had a good time with all their memories and heartaches of the Depression era and growing up too. But that's what I remember hearing them talking about. You remember this, you remember that, we didn't have this, and they just laugh. It was really funny. Okay, going on. This little something I wanted to put in here, it may or may not mean anything to anybody. This is somewhat my opinion and observation. Mom always told me that her grandmother, my great-grandmother, her grandmother, was a half-breed Indian. I think they even called her the old squaw. You know, times from 100 years ago. You didn't think about that shit. You know, somebody, white man gets a hold of an Indian off the reservation, she's a half-breed squaw. They didn't think about that shit. So, don't put anything into that. But Mom said that her grandmother was half-breed Indian. Now, I can't remember which one of my cousins said that they had that 23andMe DNA test and it came back negative. Well, blow break here. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it isn't. I've heard some reports that ain't that good. This is my summation, which I can't prove with anything, but this is my observation and gut feeling. I think she was. You look at my mom, who favored grandma quite a bit. High cheekbones and the shape of the face and all things. They look like Indians. Now, do I? No. Because Dad had all this English in him, and there was some German on Mom's side too. From Grandpa. So that Pennsylvania Dutch gig. So these genetics fill in. So I've got this long drawn out English horse face, if you will. And it doesn't resemble quote unquote Native American Indian, but I think we've got it. Based on looking at my aunts and my mom and my grandmother. I don't have any pictures of my great-grandmother. And with something else. DNA tests, high cheeks. This is something that would happen to me when I was younger. Not so much now that I'm older, because I don't spend that much time out in the sun. When I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time out in the sun, working on the farm, doing jobs, this, that, and the other. I worked at a KOA campground for a summer and never had a shirt on. 6'2", 145 pounds, skinny ass kid in the 70s. And I got dark. I got real dark. And there were people that would ask management if I was Milano. Now, being half black. Now, could I darken up? Yes, I can. I can still darken up more than what is termed as light-skinned blacks. Does that prove that our family has Native American ancestry? No, it doesn't. Do I think it does? Yes, I do. That's just an aside. I think that's out there. And that's been questioned in the family a little bit. But Mom believed that Grandma just, oh yeah, my mom was, Mom was half-breed. And Grandma, and Mom said, oh yeah, Grandma was half-breed. And my grandmother said, oh yeah, Mom was full-blooded and all that. So it was spoken in the family as if you would talk about the time of day or the weather of the month. So you take that for what it's worth. That's really all the notes I have. You know, I wish I could remember more, and I can't. You know, to the family back there in Pennsylvania, kind of a recap. I know we weren't close. I know I didn't come in much, and this, that, and the other. I hope this video gives you something, even if you skip through it. I don't expect everybody to look at it. Maybe my closest cousins, maybe, and that's okay. I know as time goes on, things with pain and memory, time dissolves that. And the May the May Haymaker Adams family is dwindling down and spreading out. This branch of it over here, I'm it for all intents and purposes. I die, it's gone for all intents and purposes. And there is a certain amount of nostalgia and reflection that I'm going through because I'm in my mid-60s here. And I admit that. But with that being said, I hope that maybe one or two of these stories will touch somebody or kindle a memory or give a I never knew that type of thing with my uncles. Or with my uncles, you know, your relative. I really can't think of much what else to say, but I'll say this. I wish you well. I wish you good health. And for whatever time you have time you have left in this life, try to make it a good one. Thank you. Be well. Turn it off.